this is our second design of the driver profile. What we're trying to do is there's a lot of data there, so we're trying to lay it out in a simplistic form and an intuitive form. For me, I tend to go into the finite detail of things and like to add a lot of stuff, let's call it. But the problem is to be able to present that in a way that it's not busy or overwhelming is the hard part.
Green flag.
Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Use Apex 10 at checkout to save 10% on fueling your passion. Use Blind Apex 2025, all one word, at racesetuppro.com. Save 20% on a monthly or annual subscription. And let's talk about this a little bit. This platform has allowed me to talk with a lot of passionate and innovative motorsports enthusiasts. I don't know, 160 something episodes in, and I can tell you technology is accelerating each driver. It's helping organize our data, process our data, record our data with less effort. And it really allows us to focus on driving. It allows us to get faster. And that's just a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. I don't know how to explain it, and I'll let my guests explain it. We're going to talk about driverlink.io. I was doom scrolling one night. It came up in IG. I was like, yeah, I'm going to check this out. The next morning, I have, emphatic Dylan, old EJ2 track rat. He hit me up in the morning, was like, I need to look it up. And now, look, here we are. We're going to talk about this. Joining me, someone who took the loss of Race Hero as hard as the rest of us, likely. Probably ruminated on it, perseverated, probably thought, well, it really wasn't that good, but it's probably better than it was around. He's a club racer. He's a creator, Emmer Racing chairman. John Katz, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, Con. I appreciate it. A big intro, but hopefully I could live up to it.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I stalk people on the internet and I like intros. I don't know why I do them, but
no, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a little background on myself. Like you said, a creator, a builder, an audio engineer, if you go way back. But right now, I run an IT company, so I have access to some nice technology, some servers, back end, front end, dev help. I'm a racer. As you mentioned, I'm the current chairman for Emmer Racing. And yes, we took the loss of Race Hero pretty hard. We had an amazing grid portal that our registrar built. She built an amazing platform, but the problem was the hook was Race Hero. So all of a sudden that announcement came at the end of 24, I believe it was. And we said, wow, what are we going to do? So we started looking for alternatives. There wasn't really much out there. So last season was pretty rough. We were doing CSV exports and imports out of orbits back into our grid portal just to get grid lineups and FTD and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the history of what led us up to this point.
I deal with downloading CSVs, converting them, flipping them, importing them, exporting them, all of that, all day long. And the chance of error, or not less on error, but more on like something happening to the file, is higher than you ever want it to be. The time you need that quick turnaround is the time you're not going to get it. So,
yeah. And then if something doesn't go right, you're literally at the track in the middle of a day trying to get a grid uploaded, and something breaks, and then it's not good.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of your background, but let's go farther back, because
sure.
I want to Emmer Racing. Let's talk about that a little bit. how'd you get involved with it? What drove you down that path? And I want to hear about that a little bit from you,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. So I grew up in my dad's shop. I've always been into cars. I could say I'm from the generation that we had shop in school. So we got to work on our own cars and hang out. And like I said, I had my dad's shop, so I always had a lift and I was always working on my own cars. But I never really made it out to a track event, although I wanted to. Back in 2017, I got a Caddy ATS-V, and I was like, I got to open this thing up. So a buddy of mine, Carmine's like, yeah, I know somebody. They go race at Lime Rock Park and here and there. He's like, go call this guy up. I don't even remember who it was, to be honest, but it was someone that was currently with EMRA. And, I went out for my first track day event. It was at Lime Rock. I went through EMRA's school and I was hooked. You know how it is. You get the first time you get out there and you start throwing the car into corners and you get that feeling and I was immediately hooked. So I did the last event of 2017 and then I started 2018. I was back with Emra for the first event. So, I've been going out since then. Besides missing, during the pandemic, I've been hitting almost every Emra event and I try to make it to a couple other organized events each year as well. But that's how I started with Emra. I could tell you there was kind of the old guard, if you would, that was running the the old chair and the whole board. They were a little older. They didn't understand marketing. They didn't understand social media and the internet. And it's an old club, so you had some of them older folks on the board, and they were hurting. And I remember speaking with the old vice chair. And by the way, they didn't show it at the events, which was good. But one of the old vice chair, we were talking at NJMP, and he's like, "Man, we're hurting, we're losing on this event." And I'm looking around, I was like, "This is an amazing event." I didn't understand, so I said, "You know what? They always had an open policy that you can come down to any of the board meetings." So I went down to my first board meeting and I sat there and I said, "Look, if you guys," I think at that time they maybe had 50 followers on their Instagram account, it was nothing. And I said, "Look," I was like, "if you guys do one post a day, just one post a day, I guarantee you in 6 months you can turn this around and really start getting people coming back out." And it's an amazing organization, but the problem is you have 10 other organizations now doing the same thing. Back in the day, it was you and SCCA, that was it. So no one knows. I mean, people still don't know about EMRA. We're the second oldest organization in the country, and people don't know about us. So, that was the beginning for me. Was I came in and said, "Hey, I'll do the website for you." It was built on an old Flash CMS, and Flash is no longer a thing. I ended up having to redo the website in a weekend because Flash was being turned off, and I moved everything over to WordPress in a weekend just to get everything up and running. And that's how I started with Emra.
So, I mean, you're old enough to have shop in your school.
Yeah.
But you're young enough to understand the internet and the finer workings of websites and social media. So you and I are probably close in age, or closer in age than I would think. But I always feel like I'm the old man. So okay,
you don't look it, by the
way. I feel it. My hip flexors are dying. The gym is killing me, and it's killing me, and I don't see results. So that's how I know I'm old.
Yeah, but at least you're getting there, right?
Yeah, I'm still going, right? I just wanted I wanted to hear that story because what we're about to talk about, I think currently is more important for other organizations to jump in. I've cruised the website driverlink.io. I believe we're going to talk about that because this is mostly drivers, but everybody who's listening, if you don't see a bunch of, if your schedule's out and you don't see that schedule on the website, poke and prod your people to get them on there. Okay. I think it's going to be super important. You came from running chairing EMRA. Okay. You came up through their system, you're chairing it, you're trying to grow and help EMRA. But what I see driverlink.io doing is growing the sport. And in this economy, time in our lives, I think it's going to be really hard. And so I want to use my platform to help you show your platform so we can all strengthen and grow the passion of our hobby. Right.
And that's what grassroots is all about. It really is.
So what is driverlink.io and who is it for?
That's a great question. Should we start with the drivers or the organizations? I think we can start with the drivers if you want.
Sure.
Cool. So the goal for DriverLink is to be a timing agnostic, organization agnostic timing platform that allows you to look at your timing, correlate it with weather, your setups, and take that over time. So you're able to run a session, come off track, and instead of on a piece of paper writing down, let's say, your tire temps and pressures, you can log a quick log inside of DriverLink and correlate that with the session that you just ran. What I mean by correlate that is that we're going to pull down weather information. If you sign in with MSR, we know what event you're at. So we can pull in as much information as possible. So let's say next season, when you go back to that same track, you can look at the weather, the humidity, what tire temps, what setup you ran, and try to look at that information over time. That's from a high level. That's where we're at. You can pull in telemetry data, and we do a little bit of drop of coaching, although I don't think that's what the platform is meant for. But we threw it in there just because it was we already had the data, so we kind of spit it back out at you and said, hey, this is what you did on this lap that was made you slower than the lap before if you pull in some telemetry data as well. For the organizer side, you mentioned Race Hero before. I think a lot of the organizations took a big hit when Race Hero decided to close the doors. So first and foremost, live timing. And we need to see as a grassroots culture, we need to see that live timing. If your buddy's at home, he couldn't make it out to the track, you want to be able to find that event quickly and see what you're doing when you're out on track. I call it a management platform because we have a schedule builder in there. That's one of the things that we as an organization struggle with is getting a schedule together, getting it approved by the board and getting it out. Another thing we struggle with is calculating championships. So again, we have a championship module now for the organizations where you go in and say what your point structure is. Do you have drop events? Do you have fastest time of day bonuses? How are you calculating? Is it, is this a race, for all classes, a per class race? Is this a fastest time of session, a fastest time of day? There's this whole championships module now that automatically calculates your championship. MSR integration. So now you can pull all of your events in from MSR. And I have a little bit of an SEO background, so we're pushing your events out to Google also. So now your events will show up on Google correctly if you load your events in. And again, from a high level, just the complete management platform for both drivers and organizations.
So I won't lie, I'm fascinated on the driver side. So I don't know what the organization side's really going to look like, but I really want to talk people into how they can claim their profile.
Sure.
And then sort of what things do, because I've been messing around with compare drivers almost all day.
It's fun. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem that we had, and the reason why we need the claiming system, is drivers run different events with different organizations. I'm going to use myself as the example. When I run with EMRA, I know beginning of the year, I sign up, I claim my number. I'm number 99. That's my number for the season. I go and run with, let's say,
I'm a
Grid
99
Life.
too.
You're 99 also.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, good company.
Right?
Cool. So yeah, so it adds complexity. I go run an event with Grid Life, and I did this a couple seasons ago, and I couldn't run 99. So now I'm in there as 099, or maybe it was 199, 9. I don't remember what it was. So now the problem becomes I have, again, multiple profiles. So I mean, I go in there, I look at people that I know, like I'll mention like Ferris. I go in there and he's got like 9 different profiles with multiple events on each because it's a name and a number. So, the easiest way to claim your profile is log in with MSR. If you log in with MSR and then sync your vehicle in the settings, we know your name and your number, and we auto match your name and number in the platform. After you claim that profile, it's an automatic claim. Then you go through and look for other events that you ran with a different number. There is a manual claiming process. So someone on our side is going to look and make sure that you're claiming a profile that's yours. We don't have any other way to do this at this point. So again, going in with MSR, we can match your vehicle with your profile. Additional profiles are a manual thing. So if you go under drivers, you search your name, a number that you ran in a different event, you click on that profile, you click on that claim profile button, and it goes for a manual approval. We're trying to get those turned around in under an hour right now.
You are. You did pretty good turning mine around because I couldn't even remember. I don't want to give away so people don't try to claim other people's stuff. When you get there, you get there. But my thing was on my data scientist hat went on when you were talking about it. Is there a way that we could claim, you could designate your number as more of an alias and then select multiple numbers to be sourced off the original?
So we can do that, but we can't verify, and that's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why we said if we log in, so you can create an account. You don't have to log in with MSR. You can create an account, go into settings, and you can add your MSR account or link it, we call it. Once you link it, you click on sync vehicles. You can have 5 different vehicles in there. That may match 5 different profiles, and then lower on the page, it'll automatically say, hey, we've recognized that these are you. When you hit claim, it's an automatic claim. That there's no approval there. It's an auto approve. So that's the only way that we figured out. Look, if you can come, I would love to hear from anybody. Please tell us how we can streamline this. I don't know. I haven't thought of any other way. We're stuck on the fact that, like, hey, you're logging in with your email address at MSR. MSR knows that that's an event that you ran with that vehicle, that number, your name. So I don't know any other way that we can automatically claim these or merge these.
Okay.
Unless you're Ferris, because then I can look up and say, hey, that's definitely Ferris. Or, I mean, you have a pretty unique name also. I can go in and... Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's one of me, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's race, maybe. There's more than one Con John Turk, but...
Yeah. But that being said, we also, one of the things... Right now, we're in open beta. So I try to send an email out every few days with some updates. And every few updates, I do remind everybody, like, hey, if people are signing up and they do have 5, 6, 7 profiles, instead of going through the claiming process on the site, just send us a message and we can do all that claiming on the back end.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing we didn't talk about, but I'm not going to put you in the queue. I'm going to put you out at the first live Sunday. So that'll be the second Sunday in March.
Awesome.
Because I've already closed this week. So it'll go out on the 8th. So everybody's listening to this on the 8th or the 9th or whatever after the 8th. Mostly because I wanted this information to be as fresh as it can be. I know you guys are making updates and things like that.
Yep.
It is live beta. We talked a little bit before we hit record. I don't know how much you want to get into it. I know I found, I don't want to say discrepancies, but then you explained to me what was going on. So can you explain to everyone else how you're like scraping data and where you are in that process? Possibly.
I'd rather not. Only okay, because I don't want to run into any situation down the road.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. That's cool. And the issue is that basically from live beta until the future, right?
Yes.
The more people sign up, the more organizations that sign up, the more consistent the data is going to be, the more accurate the data is going to be from here on out. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The goal is to get organizations in, get live timing in, and the more live timing organizations that we have attached to the platform, the better the data is and the experience is for all the drivers.
For sure. So I won't lie. I only got one good race weekend in last year, but I did pretty well in that race weekend. And so I do what I do every off season. I set the expectations pretty high. And I was clicking around under my driver profile, and I appreciate the way it's laid out because you can get to certain things multiple different ways. But let's talk about some of the things that are in the driver profile because I'm using them to prepare for the event coming up in 3 or 4 weeks now.
Sure. Yeah. So this is our second design of the driver profile. What we're trying to do is there's a lot of data there. So we're trying to lay it out in a simplistic form and an intuitive form. For me, I tend to go into the finite detail of things and like to add a lot of stuff, let's call it. But the problem is to be able to present that in a way that it's not busy or overwhelming is the hard part. So when you land on a driver profile, on a populated driver profile, what you'll see is your name, your number. You can have a quote in there, which I kind of like. Then any racing organizations that you run with, and then your home track. So that's kind of in the about you section. Under that is the amount of events that we have in the database, the sessions you ran, the total amount of laps. And then we have a follow feature also. So if you want to follow somebody, you'll be able to get push notifications of when they go live in sessions, any results that they have in championships, or if they hit a personal best in the system. And then besides that, on that driver profile page, you'll see some recent results, which are the sessions that were just run from that driver, and then their track bests. So what we try to do is pull, and again, these are track bests that we have in the database. It's not all of your track bests, although your ability to upload those are coming as well, especially with telemetry data. And then right smack in front of you is lap progression over time. So what we try to do is a simple drop down of every track that we've seen you at and, your track progression over time to see, hey, are you getting faster? Are you getting slower? You can just literally click on that right off the profile page. So that's the landing page of the profile.
Yeah, I'm looking at my lap time progression, and luckily I was able to beat a prior personal best, but only after 2 events at Summit Point where it wasn't quite as fast. Now I know Summit Point it's weather dependent, so grip levels change due to temperature and moisture and all that jazz. So anyway, I'm enjoying what I see so far. So
awesome. I appreciate that. So you just said that. And so what's cool is now I'm sitting on your profile. I look at so there's for people who are listening in, there's basically it's a line graph. There's a line for your PB, and then there's spots on that graph with a line connecting them. So I see that you ran a 124, then you slowed down to 126, a 125, then you got your PB back at a 124.7. But what's cool is I see that's Friday the 19th. So I can click on Friday the 19th. That brings me to the live timing page now, and I'm actually looking at that session from the event, and I see it was actually 76 degrees, and it looks like it was damp that day too.
I need to find that. Friday, September 19th, 2025. We don't run on Friday.
Yeah.
There's some.
So I have bad data there.
No. Well,
oh, I bet you I know what this is. It's a time zone issue. I'm running UTC. It picks it up as a Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So this is what I found in the past. And I just want to warn organizers, maybe you can comment on it, but invariably in the work that I do, bad data in is bad data out, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a universal. It's like it might as well be a Newton's law in the data world, right? So in this course, at this point, it's a time zone setting, but in general, like naming conventions, how you set up your profile and name it, and all these things are all going to play a role into it. So be methodical, in my opinion, when you set up your stuff.
So it's funny you say that. One of the hardest things that for us to do was normalizing track names because it's a free form field and timing. So we saw, again, I'll use Lime Rock Park as the example, LRP, Lime Rock, no space, Lime space rock, no park. So like we had to build a whole normalization engine in the background just to normalize track names. And that's the only way we were able to get PBs. So you'll see there's definitely issues with the backfill in here. It's actually, we're doing exact match, we're doing fuzzy match up to 90%, and then we're allowing the organizers to match their events in the back end. So if you upload events, which you can backfill both from orbits, from a CSV, from an MSR integration, I'm going to actually host a webinar for the organizers. But when you import all of that, there's a scoring engine on the back end for you to match your tracks, because everybody does name every single track differently. I wish it wasn't a free form field, but that was a killer for us.
The base data set should never have free form, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
I deal with it every day, so
yeah.
I'm like, I have a team that sanitizes data just so it can be worked.
Yeah, it was rough. It really was. So what we did, like you said, you have a baseline data, and then what we do is we have a matching engine to the baseline. So the perfect example is I'm clicking on like Summit Point Motorsports Park. You go to the track page, you can see the track configurations, the most active drivers there, the most active organizations there, breakdown by the circuits. But now all of a sudden, again, like you have someone that just says, Summit Point. Well, what config was that? Was that main? Someone will just write Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
So it was really, really hard to get that done. It's if I can actually log into the back end and tell you we have. Let's see what we're matching.
Oh, this is got to be cute.
88.9% matched right now across the platform. So it's not bad. So about 88% of the tracks that are matched, and the ones that aren't are like 3/8 Auto X, South. So and then the problem also became, hey, now we have to take all of these unmatched tracks that we're matching and then apply a track logo to that. So like there's another engine on top of it that has to try to match SVGs to unmatched tracks that we've just matched, and it's the database architecture got pretty intense.
I have no doubt in my mind that so first off, I'll commend you for how it's laid out. I'm running it in dark mode. I believe everyone should run everything in dark mode, but that's just me.
I'm running in light mode.
But the layout, how things are done, the multiple ways to get to things, you can look at the tracks that you've been to. You can click on compare. You can it's basically to compare yourself with other drivers. I've been doing that all day. I was like, okay, I know Mike's going to be there. I know Pete's going to be there, and I was like, I haven't been there in a year, essentially. Yep. And I was like, where are they versus where am I? And so it graphs it for you. So it will tell you on a graph and in a basically a table that where you are in comparison to the peers you pick. Now, it only lets you pick 4 drivers total, including yourself. So hopefully we can get an increase to maybe like 6. But I'm putting that
I know
request in.
somebody. I can get that done.
I know it's right now it's fine, right? Like I just shuffled people around. I dropped off the back half of whatever the comparisons were going to be, and I started working that way. But yeah. Anyway, I love it. Okay. I need everybody to sign up. That's what I want, because once you're in and once you see what they're offering, I think the evolution of DriveLink.io may be what really pushes things. Like you're going to enjoy it. You're going to be able, it's one-stop shopping that works. How well do you intend to do like live scoring here?
Yeah. So should we go over a little bit of the history and how it actually came to be?
Sure.
Because that really, yeah. So, I mentioned Race Hero before, and again, we had this wonderful grid portal that integrated with it. And then Race Hero went down. We have no live timing. We have no grid portal. So for me, the way this started was we have a little CM5 based, device that we said, hey, we're going to stick something right next to the timing computer. We're going to pull timing data from orbits. We're going to cache it locally and then push it to an online database because we wanted our live timing. We wanted our grid working. So we built the device. It was working. When we started building the web portal is when it hit me. I was like, you know what? This is great, but other organizations can use this. Why don't I just fuck it? Let's just rebuild Race Hero. Like that's where we were at. Let's just get live timing out to everybody. We'll get historical data there for everybody. And we spoke with MyLapse, and they basically said the only officially supported way to do this was with the scoreboard feed. So that's how we built it, was through the scoreboard feed. So so we started building this front end. I said, you know what, let's just rebuild Race Hero. So let's make this available for everybody. So we have this cool like setup functionality on these devices now. Then it was like, you know what, we have all these people here. I would love to be able to just click on my name and see all of my events. We weren't able to do that in Race Hero. You had that search box, you can search, and then it's just like kind of a list of your events, and that was it. So I said, let's start correlating stuff. You know what? Let's pull weather. Like there's APIs that we can pull weather in. So let's start pulling weather for all these sessions. Then I said, you know what? I would love to correlate my setups. I run 2 different sets of wheels and tires. Like I would love to throw that in there. Then it's like, all right, well, I can never remember how many clicks I have on my front and rear dampers. So why don't I throw like full setup in there? And so it kind of snowballed, but the foundation was live timing. So I can tell you that the way we architected this from day one was very different than what it is now. It was meant for, just for us to cache local timing with the R monitor protocol is what it is, and shoot it up to an online database. The way we have it set up today is with a technology called MQTT. So it's a publish, subscribe, pub sub model. It's very lightweight, and it's meant to be a broadcast for many. So it's very lightweight, and it's very robust, and that's how we rebuilt this. So, a few weeks into saying, hey, we're going to rebuild Race Hero, we rebuilt the entire platform, and it was from live timing outward is the way we did this. So we're hoping that the organizations jump in. The live timing is solid. Once the organizations are in, the driver data is where it's at. Again, my ability to come off track, log my session, take my tire temps, load it in, and keep going for the day, and know that I can go back and look at it and not lose a piece of paper that I scribbled on, especially if I want to look at that next season. It's gone. A lot of people carry their pads around. Well, carry your pad around, load your data in later, and now you can look at it and analyze it. Upload your telemetry data also. I don't know did you have a chance to upload any telemetry?
No, I haven't done that yet. So I ripped all my Garmin stuff.
Cool.
And sold my Garmin because I went back to AIM. So I'm going to the AIM, Smarty Cam and MXM and all that stuff. So
nice. Yeah. So right now we have the ability for hot lap, I think it's a race render, any race render compatible upload works, and the aim telemetry. And I would argue that our telemetry is a little nicer than aim's native software.
Listen. Yeah. Race Studio 3, we've been due for like Race Studio 10. Okay.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
But I'll leave it there. I'm not. Anyway, there's plenty of ways to look at your data in Race Studio and in other formats. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do a really great job with their product, but not with their software.
Yeah, what we wanted was the ability trackside. If you're sitting there with a laptop, we didn't talk about the garage at all, but basically open up the garage. You don't have to log a session if you don't want to. There's a button called quick telemetry. So you can literally just upload your telemetry and look at some analysis trackside if you wanted to. If you wanted to log a session, there's a continue to log session after you upload that from the quick log as well. So again, it's the way we built this, especially the garage, was trackside. You want to be able to log your sessions. And again, as long as you set up that MSR integration and sync the events that you're at, we know what event you're at, so we'll tag you with the event. We'll tag the live timing data from the organization, the weather, your setup information that you've already put in there, and you log your session in there.
So, okay. What does the future hold? Let's talk the next 365 days. If you can talk that far into the future, and then maybe like 2 or 3 years from now, what's the end goal?
Sure. So I could say the next 365 days, I would love to see this as popular as Race Hero was. I would love to see organizations using the live timing and drivers going in, creating their accounts, and using this as a tool to maintain their driving history and to help them get better, faster, stronger. Like, let's use this as a cool grassroots tool. That I would say would be the next year. I would lie if I didn't tell you that we were looking at boards right now that have an IMU and telemetry and potentially a low cost device that can sit next to the timing data and stream some live telemetry as well. That way you don't have to have the burden of uploading your telemetry would automatically be there. But again, that's not the focus. The focus is the platform right now. Right now we have the organizers module, we have the drivers module. The next module that's coming out is the clubs module. The biggest difference is the organizer module. Organizers are sanctioning bodies. They have their own timing equipment. They're renting tracks out. They're charging for registrations. You have your drivers that are attending these events, and then somewhere in between there are clubs. I'll use the example of like the S2K Takeover or the 86 Cup, where they're a group of drivers that drive between different events, and they're taking live timing from different events to calculate their championship. So what we're doing now is we're coming up with a module that the heads of the clubs can create their club in here, and very much like an organization, they can calculate their championships, their point structure, and then have approved events from organizations. We also have the ability to turn on or off telemetry to be used at the club level towards a championship as well. So if you're driving, let's say, 3 events with EMRA, 3 events with an SCCA region, another event with let's say HOD who doesn't have live timing, and you want to integrate timing from the 2 orbit systems and telemetry from HOD, you'll be able to do that in the clubs module as well.
So I would be amiss, and you triggered something in my brain about like who can see what. So sure. My profile, if you search my name, how deep can a competitor get into my data?
So right now, what they can see on your data is your track bests, your PBs, basically what tracks you've been at, your recent sessions, and the compare engine, and it stops there. What they can't see is your garage. So the garage is held behind your login. but there's also a permission that we just added to invite a crew member or a coach to be able to see your garage. And if you give the coach permission, they can basically leave notes and tips against each session. So I know you had, who was on your show? Is it Jackie? Is that her name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Jackie Andrews.
Jackie Andrews. So someone like Jackie would be able to come in, create an account, and then anybody that has a profile on the system can invite Jackie to view their sessions, their telemetry, and she can leave notes based on what she's seeing in these sessions. When she clicks on drivers at that point, she would have a section in there for anybody that she has permission to do that.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted people to understand that unless you turn the switch on for a specific person, that essentially well, it's basically public data, right? Your lap times are always public. This one just highlights what your best has been and at what tracks you've been to. But in the old Race Hero, you search my name, you're going to see a slew of all the places I've been, right?
Yeah.
If you dig enough, you'll see my best times. Okay. But we're not getting personal. Nobody's crawling in your data, right? Though you can house it all, it's not broadcast to everybody. So I wanted to make sure that was
correct.
Clear.
Yeah, that was one of the challenges. Again, the same way you were looking at everybody because you have an event coming up. I used to go and like, hey, who was in ST3 and who's going to be at this event and start looking at their times. It was a nightmare in Race Hero to try to do that. What we try to do in this is make that easy to be able to find that data.
Yeah, so I mean, I did a how to assess your competition specifically for nationals, and I didn't end up going to that nationals, but we all put too much stuff out there for our competition to see. So we'll just leave it at that.
But this isn't drag racing, so it's we all share and we all
yeah, and in the end, like I know you're sharing or you're collecting some data that's not readily present, like temperature and weather conditions and things like that. And if you were at that event, well, you're going to have that. So then you'll need to directly compare. But when you're not there, I don't know if you're going to see the weather per se, but it's out there. You can go back in history and look at the weather that was at the track that day, right?
Yeah.
You can Google someone was racing with you that weekend and had all of their data on the screen when they put their thing on YouTube, like just because you don't, I mean, we won't know your corner speed, but there's other things you can extrapolate from other people. You can get real dirty in this game. Okay. So at least you're not snitching and you're making us work hard for it. So I appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah. Again, the goal for this is really to present the data that's already out there with some extras in there. And again, one of the things, organization records, track records, stuff like that, I think is cool to be able to see. So when you click, again, I'll mention Ferris. If you click on Ferris, of course, you're going to see some Oregon track records up there.
Yeah. So what else do we need to cover from year end? And then I really, at some point, I want to cover the key takeaways for people, either what they need to do or, sort of what it provides you and things like that. So,
yeah, I think we didn't really touch on the garage much, but again, we've been talking about what it does, from a high level, the ability to really log your sessions and look at your data over time. And that's what's behind that login. So that's the non-public data. That's the stuff that can be shared out to a crew member, someone that, literally sitting in pit lane. If you're driving through and they're going to come in and do tire temps and then you're driving back out, they can create that log on your behalf. But I think we covered a lot. We really did. I mean, this is from a high level, this is what the platform is. As far as takeaways, again, it's come claim your profile. That's it. Let's get everybody in here. Let's get the organizations using this platform. And, I can't say it enough, but the more The more live timing we have in here, the better the data is. Everything we've done is mobile first. So again, it's real time timing. It looks great on the phone. If you want to look at some of your older sessions, I can tell you the last couple of years have full passings. Beyond that, we have session bests, not session laps. So yeah, if you want to come look at some of your previous stuff, I'll invite everybody to come in, claim your profile, and let's build this thing. And follow your friends. Why not? You get notifications if you want to. Our apps are waiting for approval in both stores. Right now, there's a PWA app. So if you're on an Android, you'll get a notification to install it. If you're on an iPhone, if you want to, you can add the home screen. You'll get push notifications, but the native apps are coming.
Yeah, and for me and my buddy Jaime at Race FF Pod, the passing data chart is awesome. I love it.
Awesome. And we're expanding on that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're expanding on it. I think, does EMRA have multi-class racing?
Yes. So this is one of the org side challenges that we had. And again, when we start looking at building a championship module, we were stuck on it for a while because of how many options we had to add. And I could say, like, one of the things that we do at EMRA is I'll take the time attack or the time trials. Like, if there's a minimum of, you have to have a minimum of 2 people in the class or else you get bumped up a class. And then what happens? Do you get points for that class or the class that you were bumped from? And then what happens if you're bumped all the way up to STGT, which is the highest class, and then you need a bump? What happens there? So there was a lot. I mean, that was days just for that one thing. So it's we tried to think of everything. But yes, EMRA does multi-class races.
Yeah, so one of the things, I didn't see a class filter on that. I know we're in beta, and I'm not being nitpicky. I'm just saying, because some of the stuff I was looking at was easy because it was a 22-card Honda Challenge field, and we were the first group, right? And we stayed pretty tight. Everybody was on the lead lap. Some of the other stuff I looked at, we had less folks, and we were not all together so well. So it was just interesting. Maybe I missed it.
So I think what ended up happening, I'm looking at one of your, let me go back to one of yours. So if we don't have class detail from the backfill, there won't be a class filter. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. And so those are the things, just a warning to everybody, when you sign up and you start digging around and you're like, yeah, I want this. Like, I just wanted a class filter. Well, if the back data didn't bring it, it doesn't have it right now. But in the future, and this is the warning to the organizations, like, that's why good data in brings good data out. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also I can tell everybody again, we want to build this for everybody. There's a feedback form at the bottom of every page. Fill it out if you find a bug. Fill it out, a feature request, other feedback. Tell us you hate us, we'll still read it. But there's a feedback on the bottom of every page. So if there's something that you want to see somewhere, let us know and we'll build it.
Awesome. Chris Cavetto, NASA Mid-Atlantic, answer your text message. That's all I have to say about that. I couldn't wait. I was going to call him later, but I just decided I need to send him the link and just tell him to do it. So
much appreciated.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure, man. I really hope this takes off. It's everything Dylan said plus some. You know, the more I dug, the even better things got. And I think, oh man, you make Race Hero look like an old GeoCities website too. So I appreciate what you're doing, man. Because this day and age, people are, well, even myself, my website, the podcast website's not that great, but yeah, this is really nice. I'm really happy to see that somebody took this on.
I appreciate that, Con, and it's really been an honor to be on this podcast. You're kind of a legend in this grassroots scene.
Lord.
I appreciate that.
I am not a legend, but John, it's been a pleasure, sir. where can everybody find, what's the website again? Where does everybody need to go?
Sure, driverlink.io. Log in with your MSR account or create an account. Yeah, we'll see you at driverlink.io.
Yeah, driverlink.io, I think, is also your Instagram. I'm sure you do updates and all that jazz. Give them a follow. I think it's you're moving the needle when the needle needed to be moved big time. So
Yeah,
I really appreciate
that.
it.
No, we do, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good evening.
You as well, man. Thanks.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.